welcome to this edition of the Wonderbury podcast.
I'm Brian,
I'm Dave.
and you can find us online at wonderbury.com.
I'm D Wonderly on Twitter.
And I'm Brian Keysbury, anywhere the internet can be found.
You can leave us questions on our Facebook page. Check the link in the description.
It'll be there.
How you doing this week, Brian?
Oh, not bad. Pretty crazy week.
Yeah?
I don't know how many people know, but I have fish tanks. I'm a weird aquarium nerd. I have a 75-gallon tank that has currently 4 black veil type angelfish in it.
Oh, nice.
Among other things. There's a lot of stuff in it, but one of them's a breeding pair, and I found some eggs. And
nice.
I got all excited and stayed up until like 4:30 in the morning one night reading, watching YouTube videos, trying to figure out what do I do with fish eggs? What do I do? And then Sunday went to the pet store, our local fish store here, and picked up all the stuff that was recommended, like different medicines and specific foods to help them grow up and be big and strong, so I could sell them off for lots of money and retire. And got home from the pet store, and the parents had eaten all of the eggs. There was just a very few left on the leaf when I got back from the pet store.
Oh, that sucks, dude.
Yeah, it was just one of those, like, sad trombone. Wah, 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 wah.
Well, you never know. They might lay some more, and you might get some little tiny ones out of the deal.
I hope so.
At some point.
They, apparently, angelfish, like, mate for life, I guess 90% of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work out and they split up, but, they've been just like following each other around in the tank, so I'm gonna stay hopeful. I have some little angelfish babies.
Maybe ask them, what do those things retail back to the pet stores for?
That's a pretty good question. I know I paid $40 for my first pair and $50 for the second pair. But they were good size. I'd say probably the first ones were probably 3 inches, like in the body size. And the other ones were 4, maybe 5.
Oh, okay.
But I've seen them anywhere from like they're usually like $15 a piece when the pet store sells them. I imagine I probably won't get even half of that.
You'll probably get like 8.
Yeah, if that.
Between $5 and $8 per angelfish.
Yeah, I was figuring maybe 5 if I got them up to a decent size.
Yeah,
which kind of excited me because there was probably 100 eggs there, and if I can get them up big enough and actually sell them to the pet store, that's just like $500 free dollars.
Yeah, you're just printing money at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What else can you raise in fish tanks to sell back that's not half bad?
Apparently about anything. There's a guy I watch on YouTube. His name's Corey. He owns a store. I think it's in Edmonds, Washington. And his channel is called Aquarium Co-op. And he's done videos on raising fish for profit. And he pretty much says anything that he sells in the store, he would buy from a local person that was breeding and selling them. His recommendation as a starter for that was like fancy guppies, Java moss as plants, and those two apparently go good together in a tank, so you could just grow all of that in one aquarium, sell it back to the fish store.
Well, if nothing else, then your hobby can pay for itself.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I mean, a little extra would be nice, but as long as it pays for itself, then
Yeah.
talk about a cheap, expensive hobby. Because I know that maintaining fish can get really expensive really quickly.
Yeah, and I'm actually really surprised that I've kept it reasonable. I think I have under $400 in my whole setup. And it's a 75-gallon aquarium, external heater with um or an external filter with a heater in line of that. So the only things in the tank that aren't fish or plants are the intakes and the output of the filter.
Oh, nice! You don't have that tubular-looking thing in the back corner of your fish tank heating up in one area and hoping it heats the rest evenly.
Yep. Yeah. Once I saw that inline heater, I took that thing out and put that in, and now it's pretty even. It's definitely a little warmer on one side, and then by little I mean probably half a degree. So
No, that's just. I mean, anywhere in the regular water is going to have that kind of fluctuation, so it's not that bad.
yeah,
I guess the only way to change that would be is to split your outputs and dump them on evenly on each side or something.
yep. Yeah, I'm just not up for that.
Yeah, just a little bit of small tubing and a little wide joint thing.
Yeah, I mean I probably got the parts in a box to do that. I'm just it's a half a degree. I'm not worried.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it was exciting. A good couple of days of excitement, and then like just not even really disappointment, just like that. Well, eh,
So, how would you prevent that in the future then? Would you remove the eggs and put them into like a starter tank somewhere or something? Or,
that's my guess. Um, that's what I've seen recommended online. I do have another aquarium I could set up, but I figure I might give them a couple of times and see if I can, I don't know, help them. I don't even know what to do, how to help them at that point.
yeah,
Apparently,
might
apparently,
be worth digging a little bit deeper and all that too.
yeah, and apparently the eating of the eggs is like their defense mechanism from other predators. The angelfish just think, oh, somebody's coming to eat the eggs. We'd better eat them first. So I don't know. Maybe get the other guys on their own.
Yeah, that might be put too, because you have all four of them in a single tank, right?
Yeah.
So they might get possessive over the eggs because the other two. Who knows?
Well, they did do a good job of keeping them out of the area where they were. Like they had pretty much quarantined that area around this plant and said, this is mine." And I saw one of them attack one of the other angelfish as he was floating over, kind of checking out what was going on. The 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 male of the pair came flying out of the plant and ran right into the side of him, like, "What do you get out of here? This is my place. Go ahead."
Yeah, maybe isolating the two breeders into their own ecosystem might be a halfway, or even putting one of those dividers in there or something and give them half and half.
I was thinking about that. That's not, yeah, the divider's not a bad idea.
Because that way you wouldn't have to fork out for a whole new system to maintain, but at the same time they'd be a little less defensive because there's not two curious bobs wandering around trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Not to mention all the other fish, too.
Yeah.
I think I've got another 15 fish in there.
Yeah, so maybe give them a quarter or a third quarantined off area and let all the other fish be in the other side. You just give them a little quarantined off area to do their business and raise their kids.
I have to figure that out.
Because I think you can get like really thin, like when you're looking in the tank, it's hard. You just look like a line dividers, but it helped separate, it's kind of a not a wire mesh, but like a plastic with holes drilled out all throughout it.
Yeah.
My uncle had a bunch of different fish, and he would do that to separate out his tanks and quarantine certain ones that didn't get along with the others. But he had a giant, like, room wall size tank.
Yeah. The 75 is a pretty good size. It's 4 foot. Uh, I have to put some thought into that. Bust out the old engineering skills.
His was like 5 foot tall, 10 foot long, and like 4 or 5 foot deep.
Lord,
This massive tank. I don't think he has them anymore, but
that's amazing. Was it freshwater or saltwater?
I want to say salt, but I'm not for sure.
Huh. That's gotta be crazy to maintain.
Like I saw pictures of it, but I wasn't, Yeah, I don't know what all went into maintaining that, because that's just that's into the level of insanity that I don't want to even deal with.
Dealing with freshwater overall isn't bad. That's what I've learned anyways. Um I have a lot of plants in the tank, which fish poop is usually what ruins a tank. So the fish poop actually breaks down to ammonia and then nitrite and then nitrate, and then that's actually fertilizer for the plants. So the plants help filter the water and keep it cleaner. It's pretty slick. All I got to do is, change some water out every couple weeks or so.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
So one thing I didn't do was get completely caught up on Man in the High Castle like we were going to.
That's all right. I think instead of spoiling it, I think we should just kind of give some initial thoughts about the whole thing and about some of the nuances that's not necessarily spoiler storyline driven.
Yeah.
So,
well, first thing I did notice, as it being a Nazi related thing, there was a surprising lack of actual footage of Hitler, which blew my mind.
I think that was intentional, and you'll understand why, because later on in the second season, interactions with Hitler actually becomes more commonplace.
Oh, okay. I think I'm
So, like, Hitler becomes a big part of the storyline.
nice.
What I liked was the integration of, like, the United States in the like the US, if you will, the stateside Nazis, where instead of like the red band, they had the striped band. The flag wasn't just the Nazi flag; it was the red and white stripes. They just replaced out the stars with the swastika there. I thought the imagery difference between the Greater Reich and the homeland was really striking. The difference there, it was a kind of I thought it was the right way to do that.
Yeah, that was really, really well done. And that first time you saw the flag, I think it was Smith was having a party, and like they're in the backyard and they do their like pledge allegiance thing, and
Yeah,
you see the flag, and like I think my heart actually fluttered for a minute. Like, wow, that is legit. They did it.
it was I think one of the most visually striking differences, because it acknowledged that that the US had lost and they had won, but at the same time it helped keep, I mean, they still called them the Americans, and this is World War II plus what, 20 years? This is set in the 60s. And so they were still second class citizens to the German Reich, yet to be included as the Nazis, it was almost like their own culture within the culture.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very a very realistic way of looking at it, and how people, that is, the United States is a very rebellious people by nature, how they would be able to feel like, yes, they're conforming, but at the same time they're rebelling.
Yeah. Maybe. Did you get the general feeling that things were working out better on the German side than they were on the Japanese side?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I think I figured out kind of why, and it was something that was said in one of the episodes with the Japanese, the prince and the princess. They are having a conversation, and the prince said something about they travel in their jets and we're still stuck on steamships.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about all of the technological advances that the United States has been kind of forefront in pushing forward. And our trade we share with the rest of the world a lot. And had we not shared our technology and what we had developed and all this with the rest of the world, what would the world look like now or in the 60s if we were very nationalist centric and not so much free trade? And I think that this also captured what the difference of technology between two of the most world powered nation states, but one doesn't share anything. And so anyone else has to reinvent whatever it is that the Germans and the Greater Reich had already invented.
Yeah.
And that's to include anything that the United States had invented by the 60s.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very interesting social political view of what happens when you do just focus inside and ignore everyone else, of how much it can affect not just your nation but the rest of the world without getting too political.
I also wondered if some of it was stuff that the Germans didn't get to finish. There's a documentary. It's like I think it's a TV show on Netflix. I'm actually trying to look it up. But they talked about um the different things that the Germans were building, and all of the advancements that they were getting really, really close to. And the it was kind of like they were talking about if the if the Nazis had just a couple more years to fight in the war, they could have won, because they were making so many advances at the time. It was just blowing things away, but they weren't getting them done fast enough.
Yeah, like there's the advances they were making, especially with the V2 rockets and what they were doing in rocketry, was just amazing. And that's one of the reasons why the United States scooped up every German scientist it could, and pretty much, regardless of how they were affiliated, gave them asylum if they'll come work. But I mean, NASA was built off the backs and the minds of Nazi rocket engineers.
Yeah, Werner von Braun.
Yeah,
Um,
because he joined the Nazi party more out of a uh not so much like a sense of duty, but more of a sense of self-preservation.
yeah,
But his dream was always to go to space. He knew that he had to further his rockets and do all the rocket testing, he figured out he could do that by building ICBM or whatever their version of the ICBM V2. But his dream was to utilize that technology to go beyond Earth. That was where his vision was,
Yeah, and
which is kind
that's
of so
why
far ahead of his time.
that's why he continued with the um going with NASA. Because he knew we were going to use it for weapons as well, but his love of wanting to go to space just beat that out completely.
Yeah. Well, and it also gave him the funding that he needed to actually accomplish his work. Because the rockets, I mean, he almost got shut down several times because of failures in Germany, but that's not a cheap empire to build.
Yeah. So I remember seeing I don't remember what it was on Reddit. They it might have been in Data is Beautiful, the subreddit. And the it was I think it was a graph that said that about 90% of all threads on Reddit either led to porn or to talk about Nazis.
You know what? That does not surprise me at all.
Yep. Two of the appears that that's about two of the biggest things in history.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, man, that the Data is Beautiful subreddit is just brilliant. There's so much cool stuff in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always absolutely gorgeous. I mean, some of that it's just raw data and then what you can do with it. There's nothing that can compete with that.
Yeah. Especially with um how available data is on the internet now. Um
Oh yeah.
just being able to go back and most places where you can go to get data, you can just export it as pure numbers, and you can play with it however you want, whether you want to make like a pie chart or some sort of graph or whatever. And it's crazy. Maps are cool.
Maps are real cool also for large constantly updating data dumps, finding if they have it available, or finding the JavaScript JSON trunk and being able to pull that raw data out and manipulate it and show it the way you want to show it is fascinating.
Mhm. I do a lot of that in Google Drive. I import like sales data and customer tracking data, performance data, and just dump it into spreadsheets. And then as long as I have it sorted out the way I want to see things, like how everything's divided up, there's quick and easy buttons that make charts and graphs and pretty pictures.
That's why there's entire job functions around data analysis, is taking that data and being able to figure out what to do with it and how to make it work for you and how to read it depending on what you want to get out of it.
Yeah. God.
Nah, it'd be a fun job. I mean, we already do it for fun. Well, you do it part of your job, and we do it mostly for fun. That was one of the big things that made the Pokemon Go trackers possible, was pulling that data directly out from the JSON data from Pokemon Go and being able to just translate it straight into a map system so you can get the live stream of data directly from the servers. Now, the unfortunate byproduct of that was put a massive strain on whatever server you're pulling that info from, because it's technically just shy or technically a DDoS, because you're making so many requests that you could tip it over to denying services to other people because of how much data you're pulling.
Yeah. That's
Which
kind
is
of
why it's not recommended to do that unless you have either full control of the server yourself or you have full permission from whoever owns it. Because doing those kind of data dumps out of like AWS could cost hundreds of thousands.
yeah. Um, we kind of did that with Ingress a lot, but it was more manual on our part.
Yeah, we did it manually. There are people out there, like, the scrapers or whatever, that do that automatically. And even IITC, which is a map plugin that's very popular, it pulls, but it pretty much just pulls the exact same data that the Intel map does. It just loads it in a much more efficient way.
Yeah.
So you're not really pulling any more data than you would be through. Actually, you're putting less of a strain on the servers because you're not loading up all the extra stuff that Niantic forces in on it. You're just loading the pure data, which is already being loaded on portal information or loaded on the Intel map anyway. And you're just utilizing it in a much more efficient way.
Yeah, it seemed to be kind of what we kind of what we stuck to as well. Just the very basic data, like where the portals were, and if we felt like updating it, who controlled them, and then we were able to use that to actually draw out our fields and links, just to
Yeah.
make it try and make ourselves more efficient on the resources we had.
Well, also back in the day, there was a lot less portals to be able to do that with.
Yeah.
Doing that now would be an absolute freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
I think at last count, there was almost 1,000 portals within the circle of Fort Wayne.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty congested. I think Headwaters Park is up to 40.
Aw. Little baby's all grown up.
I know, right? I was just remembering when we first started, there was, 25 portals in all of Fort Wayne
If that.
before you and your brother decided to submit 90% of them.
Yeah. Maybe if that. Pretty
And
sure
get
if I
and,
sat
and
down, I
get
could count them.
and get credit your stats for none of it.
Yep. Fun. Just being helpful.
I still find that to be annoyingly meh.
That's part of the reason why I just don't play anymore. That frustrated me so much that I was just like, meh.
Yeah, I play off and on. Mostly Pokemon right now because I can do that by myself. I don't have to rely on other people.
Yep.
And you can actually play in between stops, so you're not, segregated to one area at a time and then have to, okay, let's go to the other area now. You can do it all throughout, which kind of makes it nice.
Yeah. It's not overly centered on one spot.
No, which is in some ways it's nice, in some ways it's not. But they're also two very different games, so
Yeah.
they just happen to be made by the same people and based off the same concept. Or gameplay wise, not necessarily all the lore and all that.
Yeah. So when Google Maps used to have this really, really awesome feature, and I'm so disappointed it doesn't have it now. But you used to be able to go into your history of like where you've traveled. And I know that part's still there, and you can see like your travel lines when you have maps open and see where you've been and how long you've traveled.
Yeah.
But on the old Google Maps, they used to have um, a graph that was how far have you traveled, and their comparison, like the end of this fill up bar graph type of thing, was the distance traveled to the moon. And so as you went along, you would see the distance you've traveled compared to you have a long ways to go if you want to get to the moon. And that
That's
was
kind of cool, actually.
it was pretty neat. Um
I guess you could just take the data. I mean, I'm sure that is available on an API. You probably just pull that data into your own website and keep track of how close to the moon you go.
that's a good, I wonder if anybody's done that yet.
I don't know.
Huh.
That'd be a kind of fun project to work on.
Yeah.
Make it a nice little graph and just kind of update it. Maybe find how wide certain things are, so you know, like when you've crossed the United States or when you've gone north to south, from the North Pole to the South Pole. Because a lot of people don't realize how far away the moon really is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I realized once I used that.
Well,
Um
this is the kind of the crazy example that I like to tell people about how far away we are from the moon. Is that if you take all the other planets in the solar system, Pluto included, and you were to put them side by side, touching at their equator axis, the long points, you could put all of the planets in between the Earth and the Moon, and still have room to spare.
wow.
Yeah,
Um Veritasium on YouTube also has a pretty good video, and he goes out in the street with a basketball and a tennis ball and says, "Okay, the basketball is Earth, the tennis ball is the moon. Can you hold these as far apart as they would be to scale for real?" And
yeah.
most people are like, maybe a foot. They get them up real close, and he shows the actual distance. And so he has the person hold the basketball, and he walks like 30 feet maybe away and holds the tennis ball and says, "This is the distance between the moon and the earth at this scale."
Oh, it's insane. The other thing that's kind of crazy too is that we've all been told how much bigger the sun is than the Earth or than Jupiter, because that's the biggest of the comparison. And I've got the math, and I'll throw them in the show notes in case someone wants to copy this. But it's it's the approximate or the relative mass of all the bodies in our solar system, including uh maximum estimation for the asteroid belt and including Pluto. The combined mass of everything except for the sun comes to approximately 0.13% of the total. So the sun accounts for 99.86% of the overall mass in our solar system.
Dang.
If you were to remove the sun out of the equation, then Jupiter makes up 71% of everything that's left.
So it's like 0.06.
No, 71%. So
Yeah, 71%.
makes up of,
About
yeah,
1%.
is, yeah. So Jupiter is 71% of 0.13% of the solar system.
Oh, 0.13.
Yeah. So
Oh,
the sun is everything except for 0.13. So it's 99.86% of the relative mass of the solar system.
point oh nine 0.0975 of a percent. Not even
No,
a tenth of
eight,
a percent.
6.5, because it's 13. So it'd be 0.13.
Yeah.
86 plus 13 is 99. So it'd be somewhere in between those two. Yeah. Insanity. So for those people who would like to see that, I have I'll go ahead and post that math in the show notes.
Maybe we should make a graph.
That might be interesting. All right, Brian. Well, it's about that time again.
All right.
We've run a little longer today than we normally do, so I apologize. But
We can't help it that we're so interesting.
oh, always fun. I'll catch you guys next week.
Later.